Thank you for listening.
And now we'll move to our local board input. We have Greg Presland and a number of Waitakere Rangers local board members here. And fellow local board members as well. Greg, if you would be able to introduce everyone before you kick off, and then you've got the normal 5 minutes, but obviously we know the importance of today, so I'll obviously let you finish your presentations.
Kia ora mai tātou, ko te karawa maki tēnā koutou, ko te whanawa o te konihira o Tamaki Makaurau tēnā koutou. Thank you for the opportunity of presenting today to confirm we've got a very good representation of ours and neighbouring local boards. Michelle Clayton, Deputy Chair, is here. Sandra Coney, Mark Allen, Liz Manley, Ross Clow, who's a faux local board member, and Ingrid Papau, who's Henderson Massey local board member, is also present but not sitting with us right now. So we wish to talk to the committee about the agenda item concerning the deed with Te Karawa Maki. The local board recently reviewed our stance on the proposed deed, and our decision was that by a significant majority we decided to support both the deed and also the creation of a joint committee to then engage in the management. The proposal's been consulted on, and the results were presented at our meeting and are on your agenda. Overall, 51% of submitters supported the deed and the committee. 39% were opposed and 10% had a more complicated view. Our local board area, 54% supported, 32% opposed, and support was even higher in the neighbouring local board areas. 75% of submitters from FO supported, 78% of submitters from Henderson Massey supported. So the deed has support, and in fact it could be considered considerable support. Commenting about the deed itself, the first comment I'd make is that it's been clearly very carefully crafted. It includes a recital of the history of Te Karawa Maki's relationship with the Waitakere Rangers, and I'd suggest it's impossible to read this without realising the enormity of the loss that this iwi has suffered. Much of the Rangers was acquired by the Crown without Te Karawa's involvement or consent. And over the decades, Te Karawa's land ownership's been lost, and its way of life has been compromised by various decisions made by authorities at different times. And despite this history, Te Karawa Maki has maintained a living connection to the Waitakere Rangers. The deed's clearly mandated by Section 29 of the Waitakere Rangers Heritage Area Act. There's been some debate about whether or not this is mandatory. I would suggest the repeated use of the word will suggest some element of compulsion, obviously as long as the parties agree to the terms. The Act is clear about the purposes and powers of the deed. It can only relate to public land managed by council or DOC. It cannot relate to water. It doesn't affect the lawful rights or interests of any person, or grant or create any interest or any estate or interest in any land referred to in the deed. And its purpose is to identify opportunities for contribution by tangata whenua to the management of the land concerned by the Crown or by Council. And I would suggest that the deed faithfully follows the provisions of the Act, clearly records the statutory limitations. It outlines opportunities for contribution, including a joint development of a strategic plan for the area and joint development of work programs. Additionally, it proposes the parties engage in joint monitoring of the strategic plan outcomes, and that's to support the 5-yearly monitoring report, which is required under the Act. The deed urges parties to commit to work together in a spirit of mutual trust and respect for Te Tiriti, and it records the exceptions that at least legally are not or should not be contentious. This deed is clearly important to Te Karawa Maki and aligns with the provisions and intentions of the Heritage Area Act. There's some opposition to it, but I do not understand that, and I find that when the intent is explained to people, that there's an increased acceptance and support for the deed. Just quickly commenting on the proposed joint committee, and I appreciate that's not a decision for you today. Joint committee is staff's recommendation, and it's to give Te Karawamaki proper involvement in decisions that may affect the parkland. Different options have been considered. In-house solutions deemed optimal, and I would support that. The joint committee offers significant benefits. It will elevate the importance of the heritage area. Public input and accountability will be improved through open meetings, published agendas, and potentially outreach sessions. And the committee can act as a champion for the heritage area, and it can highlight issues that it faces and what is needed to protect and enhance the local environment. As noted in the report presented to us, quote, currently there is no single comprehensive and long-term plan that is specific to the entire heritage area. The deed and the proposed committee provide a solution to this problem. Te Karawamaki, with their deep history and their strong sense of kaitiakitanga over the area, are, I believe, worthy parties to the deed and members of the committee. Ko te wā nui a tiriwa, te nahiri o Te Karawamaki, let Te Konihira o Tamaki Makaurau respect this and grant Te Karawamaki the ability to be engaged in this process. Kia ora mai tātou.
Kia ora, Chair, and thank you and your board and your neighbouring boards for the unwavering support and advice, and also coming to this committee a number of times throughout this process to talk about the way forward. So I think it's been a very positive approach. I think, does Member Rosklow would like to say something?
I'm just going to be very brief. I'm just here representing the Faux Local Board. The Faux Local Board actually has part of the heritage parkers in our area, but actually the main thing I want to say is I want to acknowledge 4 politicians that are in this room, plus I want to acknowledge Te Warana, who was going way back, but there are 4 politicians in this room that were there right at the start. 2 of them were at the ARC, which is Councillor Lee, and Local Board Member Sandra Coney, and at Waitakere Council was myself, and we have somewhere Penny Holst at the back there as well. So, but I just pass on that the Faux Local Board is totally behind this, and we actually want to be part of the 3 local board representatives that are on this as well. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you. Now go to questions. Councillor Henderson.
I didn't put my hand up actually, Chair, but I will jump in.
Surely you've got a question.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I kind of do. I hadn't formulated it properly. But, you know, I noticed I was going to acknowledge yourself as well, Sandra Coney, for your hard work on this for, you know, so many years, and just that we really appreciate it as West Aucklanders. And I just wondered if you wanted to sort of speak about some of the history of the Heritage Area Act and sort of how it came about, just briefly, Chair, if that's okay. Would that be all right?
Yeah, it's actually Graham Campbell's here too, who I want to acknowledge, who was one of the officers of Waitakere City Council who helped with the late Hugh Jarvis from ARC, actually drafted the bill. It went through enormous consultation. It was quite controversial, but in the end, people supporting the bill attended in many hundreds a meeting in the Henderson High School hall, and cleared the way, really, I think, for the councils involved, which were Auckland Regional Council, Waitakere City Council, and Rodney District Council, I think it was at the time, to support the bill. And it was a great step forward in acknowledging the iwi Te Karawamaki and their relationship with the West Coast and the Waitakere Ranges and the western part of Auckland. I think, you know, various claims have been made recently about why this deed has taken so long to come to the forefront. And I actually think it was the local government amalgamation that got in the way, because the bill went through in 2008 and then amalgamation was being talked about and finally came through in 2010. And I just think the deed got lost in the process. But from our local board point of view, it's been very hard for us to put the act up in lights. I won't get into my critique of Auckland Council, but it's been the flame has been kept alive by the local board, who continually, when we've got policies and plans from the council that have come to us, have said, what about the Waitaki Ranges Heritage Area, and the need for it to be treated differently according to the legislation. For it has national significance, it has regional significance, and it has local significance, and you can't get any more than that. And it's a much stronger act than the Hauraki Gulf Marine Park Act. But we haven't I won't go on, Shane, I'm going to wind up. So we really, really welcome this chance for it to put it in front of and to be adopted by the whole council, and the whole council will have to observe it and take it into account in its decision making in future.
Just a follow-up, Chair, if that's okay. You've done a fantastic job of keeping that flame alive over multiple terms. So for all West Aucklanders, not just for your residents. This might be a question for Chair Presland. Do you feel that an advisory committee will allow members of the public to have more involvement in decision-making in the ranges?
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. Considerably more. Currently, many of these decisions are made at an administrative level, and there's no public oversight of what's happening. But with regular meetings, chances for the community to come and make presentations, published agendas, outreach sessions, there will be considerably more ability for there to be public engagement about what's happening in the ranges. And that's something which all locals would be very supportive of.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks for your indulgence.
Kia ora, Councillor. And I know there are a number of people in the council chambers downstairs, so it's a bit disconcerting because I think we're hearing the lag of this meeting in that meeting. So we might just get the volume turned down slightly in the room downstairs. But back to the questions. Councillor Turner.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I note a little bit of change in some of the language that you used, which I felt good for the subject matter. I just wanted to ask, the Heritage Area Act and the Deed of Acknowledgement, we're all discussing that, but the purpose of the deed, the only purpose of the deed, to deliver or identify extra areas of collaboration, contribution is the correct word, sorry, that is confined by this Act to the to Crown and Council owned land. Is it still confined to that by the fact that we're not delivering the strategic plan and the committee structure under the Heritage Area Act, but are delivering it under the Local Government Act? Does that gap take away the constraint within the Heritage Area Act?
I've been thinking about a variation of that question. So the Act is clear, it doesn't create any legal rights over land and it doesn't affect private property rights. You're suggesting that the committee should have those blinkers on and think only about the parkland and nothing else. The difficulty is with the environment that something that happens immediately outside the boundary of a piece of land can affect that land. As an example, we've got the Bufferweed project where we help landowners adjacent to the parkland deal with their weed problems. And that would be, to my view, if the committee's established, a legitimate thing for them to think about, because there is a benefit for the parkland itself and there's no taking away of landowners' rights at the same time. So if this committee's established, I think we should let them, with as wide a mandate as possible, try to deal with the environmental needs and concerns for the area.
Well, thank you. What we think and what we write is two different things. You know, what we write is what constrains us in a decade's time or so, or whatever. would I be correct, you're a lawyer, so would I be correct in the fact that the Heritage Area Act covers all citizens of New Zealand? And the piece that you've just kind of referred to that, where the heritage area is to be considered as a whole, as in an entirety, actually applies to the wider act, where what we're discussing here today only applies to 29 to 31, which is about a deed of acknowledgement for the historic and cultural and spiritual relationship, and from that drops a purpose, and that's confined to just the Crown and Council owned land. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do, but I don't see that the committee has got to put up, if it's established that it has to put up blinkers and only look at parkland and nothing else.
Last question, if I may. So in the strategic plan, which covers all these council plans, many of them of which we debated when I was on the local board with you, you say that this new committee will give them more public socialisation, more involvement. Has they not been getting involvement to the correct level already?
With a regularly meeting committee and a publicly available agendas, the ability for the local people to be engaged in what's happening in the ranges will be greatly increased. So those processes and those reports, they're formulated through complex hearings downtown normally, and lots of reading and lots of material.
We'll try not to have a debate with you in the middle of all this, but just one last question. In there is the design guidelines for the Waitaki Ranges foothills, building in the bush. It talks about, basically building permits. We've also got the big blue Waitaki, which is, if I'm correct, the harbour and right out into the Tasman Sea. Collecting those under this, bring it right outside of scope of what the Act allows, which is Crown and Council land. Would you agree?
There's a difference between creation of or affecting legal rights and consideration of an ecosystem and its overall requirements. If you want an integrated approach, then you've got to look at everything, but then you need to look at the deeds and work out what the legal constraints are in terms of what you can actually do.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Councillor Leone.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou to all of our local board members and your kōrero this morning, and ngā mihi to all of our mana whenua, te Kawerau Maki, and this long journey that you've had to bring you here today. To our other mana whenua, Ngāti Manuhiri, Ngāti Paua, and any of the others that are there in the back. I just wanted to first of all acknowledge the significant journey it's taken to get to this place today. And I just wanted to come back to the positive numbers that you spoke about, Greg, in your presentation of the support during the consultation, because it sounds from the report that you've obviously provided that a majority of those that did give feedback have been supportive. Can you just give us those numbers again?
Sure. For the Waitaki Ranges area, 54% supported, 32 opposed, Faux 75% supported, and Henderson Massey 78% supported. And the local response was much more supportive of the concept of the deed than for outlying areas or outside of Auckland. But that's because the directly affected locals have got a greater interest and a greater understanding, I believe, of what the proposal involves.
And we had quite a significant amount of people feedback, didn't we? Because I know the numbers were quite high.
Yes, they were low for quite a while, and then there was some publicity about things the deed isn't, and then numbers spiked. But obviously, supporters as well as opponents engaged much more readily after that.
Ka pai, thank you.
Kia ora, Councillor. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair. Sandra Coney reminded me as she spoke of the long journey that we've had on this, and I think it's timely that people like Graham Campbell are recognised. Te Warana here, I am so very grateful for with the Amalgamated Council, the wise counsel that he afforded us. I guess at the heart of my question is really, we're dealing with something that, as Sandra reminds us, is not just, it's not local, it's not regional, it's of national significance. We're dealing with 27,000 hectares of forest, of communities, and what I'm interested to know is, now that we've actually reached this moment in time from, for you as chair, and the determination that there is to ensure the ecological and cultural integrity of this nationally significant space, it would be really helpful if you could just outline briefly, while you have the opportunity to speak, what's your vision that might flow out of this? You can only speak on behalf of the local board, and Te Warana's there, and others I'm sure could articulate this beautifully, but what is your vision? What do you hope, by our support today, might be the outcome of this very long journey?
Very good question. The Act started off because the then Commissioner for the Environment, Morgan Williams, said because of planning processes, the ranges will suffer death by 1,000 cuts, and that was primarily through intensification and urbanisation and subdivision. So the first purpose of the Act was to try and halt that, and it's done a good job in that regard. But the Act also had all these objectives and goals for the area, many of them environmental, some of them social, and it wanted to not only hold off urbanisation of the area, but it wanted to improve the basic health of the area. And that's why there's been work in all sorts of different parts. I agree the area is significant. Supplies Auckland with a great deal of drinking water. It's been described as the lungs of the city. Artistic inspiration out west is on steroids, and there are all these passionate little communities nestled within the forest. So there's lots and lots of things that the Act is trying to look after. It's environmental, it's social, it's cultural. We think that we're on top of the urbanisation part, the death by 1,000 cuts, but now it's time for us to move on and to improve its health and deal with the other issues that arise and that are arising.
So coming back to the sense of national significance, 27,000 hectares, what is that, if we were thinking about regional parks around New Zealand that get huge prominence, what does it relate to size-wise? I guess I want us to recognise today just the significance of this, and I can't off the top of my head think of, because often for those who are outside of Auckland, they perhaps don't realise the significance of the Hauraki Gulf, or they don't realise the significance of the size of the Waitakere Ranges. What are we comparing it to, if there is a comparison?
Certainly it's big, but I believe it's unique because it's smack bang next to a highly urban area, and it's got its own fragilities and its own problems, and that because of the effect of humans, it needs extra special care and attention, and that's what this Act is all about.
Morgan Williams was indeed a very wise Commissioner for the Environment. Sandra, you were going to add to that.
And just picking up on that, the monitoring reports which the Act required to be done every 5 years, the first one very much stressed that the Act had been very successful through the unitary plan in preventing subdivision and development in the heritage area. So we have this unique natural area so close to the city of Auckland. In terms of size, the actual regional park is 17,000 hectares. The Hunua Ranges Regional Park is the same size, but the difference is the Hunua Ranges Regional Park has considerable exotic forestry. So it is by far in the Auckland region the largest and piece of indigenous forest, and adjoining it, of course, you also have people living on land, as I do, 25 acres, that is got one house on it. So you've got significant private natural areas as well adjoining the park, which is why we've got some of the programs that we've got to look after the ranges. One of my things that I like mentioning is there is a synergy here in what the local government has done historically for this area. And in the 1930s, they were looking at the centenary of the foundation of Auckland City, 1840, and they were looking for a project to make their premier project to recognise that. And there were all sorts of things on the drawing board. A harbour bridge was one of them, a big recreation centre, a children's hospital, and the people of Auckland chose the creation of a great park in the Waitakere Ranges as their project to recognise the foundation of Auckland, and that was the Auckland Centennial Memorial Park. So the steps we're going through now, to me, are a continuation of that project that the people of Auckland have supported to recognise that area as so unique. In any city in the world, you can't drive 40 minutes and get into an area like the Waitakere Ranges and the beautiful beaches.
I would like to just give a very brief answer to Councillor Fletcher's thing, what is the vision? For most people who've been in this room have been through Titirangi. If you go back and look at old photos, they're actually dairy farms. There were no trees. All the trees were cut down. Basically, all the way through the ranges, the kauri was denuded and taken back. So my vision, and the vision of many of us, is actually just to see kauri grow, big, and get to 800, 1,000 years old. I think that's the vision for many of us.
Well, we better keep going with our predator-free programs.
Kia ora, Councillor Filipaina.
Tēnā koe he mana. Mō rena koutou katoa. Sandra, always good to see you as one of the OGs, the original gangsters in 2010. So it's always good to see you. And just want to mihi to you for your mahi around the governing body table in our local board. Ross, to you as well. I mihi to you, my friend. Look, there's only one question, and I think it's important that the people around this table hear your response to this partai. This question is, that is, are you supportive of the Waitakere Ranges Heritage Area Deed of Acknowledgement with Te Kaurau Amaki?
Everyone here is fully in support of it.
Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora. Councillor Lee.
Yes, a question to Sandra Coney. Another first for me. Sandra, you were the chair of Regional Parks, the ARC Regional Parks Committee from 2004 to 2010, with notable achievements. So my question is based on that experience. A couple of points in the report regarding the deed. It talks about land managed by Auckland Council, actually owned by Auckland Council, and Crown land managed by the Department of Conservation. Am I right in understanding that it's Crown land not just managed by the Department of Conservation? Am I right or wrong about that?
I'm not quite sure what the question is. There is other Crown land, but it's not covered by the deed.
School land, education.
Yeah, the things like school land, etc., that's not included in this process. No. So it's more or less only parkland.
Second question, as a former chair of regional parks, as I was once myself, in terms of the makeup of this forum committee, which is part of the deed, the balance of local board members as opposed to regional councillors, Auckland councillors, because they are regional councillors. Do you think that the balance is right, given a large proportion of the land, most of it I would say, 17,000 hectares at least, is owned by Auckland Council, and that much of that, well, the 17,000 is actually regional park, and of course there's other local parks as well, but they are relatively small in area compared to the quite massive regional park. Do you think the balance is equitable?
I wouldn't like to answer a question about equitable, because I think that would be in the eye of the beholder to some extent. But in terms of the local boards have proved their passion for this area and have kept it alive when there hasn't been a lot of commitment coming from the regional level. So I think they've earned it, Councillor Lee, to have that many. And I think that fundamentally the way this council works, which I have to say is quite different from the regional council, is there is very much a focus on the councillors being involved in the awards and having their sort of principal interest in the awards, and there is room there for both the councillors from the west to be on there. So I think that the setup as it has been thought through, and the local board has had many discussions with the staff about this, is fair and will be effective. I think it's really critical. I think it will elevate the importance of the heritage area, and because it will be reporting back to and I imagine it would be, I think that we have to take into account there's a lot that has to be worked out here about the relationships with other parts of council and other committees, etc. And it will be important that that's done well, and it will probably evolve to some extent over time. But I think that the mix of the people from the regional level and the local level is right. Supported that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, Mayor Brown.
Thanks for that presentation. I'm asking this as the chairperson of the organisation which will have to finally approve it. I'm also asking it as a person who's been visiting the surf beaches out there for longer than some people in the room have been alive, and I've witnessed the slow encroachment of that wonderful natural thing by urbanisation, which has not actually improved it, in my view. Are you aware that there is a huge cohort of people who support the preservation of that area who don't actually live in the area? And I represent, possibly, I can say for a number of years, I did represent Surfing New Zealand and was a life member of it. And that sector like it in its natural way, and have been a group that have been important in keeping it in its natural way. And events of the last cyclone kind of questioned the wisdom of quite a lot of the development out there. Carry houses fell down that should never have been there. So I have to say that I'm definitely going to support this when it comes to the governing body, for a starter. But I'm wanting to know that, do you think that there's enough input from people who aren't actually in the area who are supporters of it? Because it is, for everyone local, has a bit of a mixed conflict there. I mean, you're there because you've got your bit of land, and you want to protect it. But a lot of the houses, in particular at Carrigate, should never have been there. And so, how do we handle that?
Good question. Firstly, about the support, I've been involved since 2001, the whole process and the creation of the Act. 2008, we had public opinion polling on the concept of the Act, and had 80% support amongst Aucklanders as a whole. So it's always, I believe, been very popular. Locally, there were 2 camps, but since 2008, the camp that thought it was going to be the end of their private property rights have realised that it's actually not that case at all. And most of them are quite comfortable with the concept of the heritage area. In terms of the area's carrying capacity, agreed entirely. I live in Titirangi. I still walk around streets and there are still slips there that's going to cost us millions of dollars to fix. The carrying capacity of the area is probably been maxed out. So I believe that there's a real virtue in the heritage area, but there's also a great practical reason to have it. And that's because of the fragility of the environment and the need for us to preserve it and just hold on, basically.
Okay, thanks. I think that's a reasonably good answer. It is kind of maxed out in a way, or past it. And it does have I've run a number of national contests out there, so it does have a national focus. It's kind of, if you go to in Brazil and you ask the people there to name 4 places in New Zealand they've heard of Auckland because there's an airport. They've heard of Raglan, Piha and Ahipara. I've never heard of any other parts in New Zealand. So this is national in its support, and so I will have no trouble in voting to support this. So thank you for that. Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Kia ora, thank you. Right, so before I get the local board to move, I've just explained before everything moves forward, we will ask the local board to step away and we will thank them. Then I'm going to have a quick 5-minute break because I figure post this conversation we'll have important tikanga, we'll have some conversation, we'll have officers' advice, we will have Ed come speak on behalf of Te Kawerau Amake. There will be many questions, no doubt, and then debate. So I think it's probably beneficial that we have a 5-minute comfort stop, and then I'll have, when we're all quiet and sitting back down, Ropata will lead off when we come back to the table. So I'm sure Councillor Henderson would like to move and Councillor Turner would like to second. Thank you so much to the local board members. It's an exciting day. Thank you very much for being here and your constant support. And we will be so keen to hear everything we assume happens positively today, how everything progresses in the next months and years to come. So kia ora. Thank you very much. All those in favour? Aye. And there are no extraordinary items. And we will just move for a 5-minute break. Kia ora.